Well, good afternoon, happy stampers. I am so sorry I'm on a couple minutes late today, but I had some technical issues coming on. So I will not be on Facebook today. I will be only on here on YouTube. So I would like to welcome all of you to my Happy Stamping Studio. My name is Judi Anderson from judistamps.com. And I am going to be bringing you a couple techniques today. A couple tips, I should say, not necessarily techniques. We're going to be using the Grassy Grove stamp set and the dies. And I am going to tell you this die is one of my favorite all time dies. It is good for all kinds of cards. And I use it quite often. I do have the numbers for both of these right in the description. So if you would like to purchase them, you can go to my store at judistamps.com and click Shop Now, and it'll direct you to my store. I am also using the Nested of Winters Designer Series paper. Yes, I'm using it again. As you guys know, I love this paper, and I have used it quite often recently in both my in-person classes and here on the internet. So we're going to be using this die, and then the colors that I'm going to be using is my card base is the basic beige. Have you tried this color? It is one of those neutrals that I am just loving. It isn't quite Sahara sand, but it does remind me of a khaki color. And then we're going to be using some garden green. This is our designer series paper. And then I have a piece of the Azure afternoon cardstock. So we're going to be doing a couple of things. First, what we're going to do is on this designer series paper, you guys know I hate to waste. So I thought, you know what? I am going to be covering up pretty much the whole center of this designer series paper. So I could just cut a frame out, but I noticed that I want a couple of the images on here. So I took a look and said, well, you know what? This image is pretty much centered in here. So I'm going to use this image. So I'm just going to take my scissors and very carefully poke a little hole right here. And I am going to actually use these two images right here. So I am just going to cut closely around them. And then we are going to be fussy cutting them out. So, but I do want to be pretty close. And we're going to go ahead and fussy cut these right away while we have our snips out. And we are using this paper. Now, this paper is a winter paper, not necessarily Christmas, and I have already started on my thank you cards and birthday cards and thinking of you cards for December and January. So this is a great paper, you guys, to use for those cards during this time where it's still winter out, but we don't want the holidays necessarily. And you could also use it for your Christmas projects if you're still working on them. Let me know how many of you guys are still working on your Christmas cards if you do them, or holiday cards, Hanukkah cards. Let me know. I was finishing up addressing mine this weekend and found out I was short cards. So I kind of went into my stash of cards that I have created here and in my classes, and I'm going to use those. You know, they are just as good as the ones that I make up for my holidays. And, you know, I encourage you to send those cards. You guys don't have to, save them. I know some people say, well, I like to save them because I want to remember that card layout or that fold or whatever. Take pictures, you guys. You know, I know you guys all have loads of photos in your phones. So take those pictures. So here we go. We're doing that image there. And then we're going to cut this one out, which is going to be quite easy. And you're going to notice that I'm not necessarily going down all the way to the stems. I'm just going down so that you see the different heights of the image and the outline. So you don't have to get real technical with these, you guys. Just kind of go and remember, move your image, not your scissors, and your cutout a lot smoother. Okay, so we're going to move that out of the way. I am going to take my cover mark for my scissors, and I'm going to push this back just a little bit. I don't want that curling up on the edges. And when you cut it, you have a tendency of those edges being sticking up instead of down. So if you just take a pencil, or like I did, the cover to my snips, it'll work great. Okay, this is done. And now we're going to work on our Azure Afternoon. Now, well, you know what? Let me cut the die out first. So we're going to cut this die out of Garden Green. Let me get my machine up here. And we are just going to place that on here with our plate 1, 2, and then 2 acrylic plates. It's for our die with our cut and emboss machine. If you're still looking for a great gift for that paper crafter, this cut and emboss machine, you guys, is an awesome gift to give somebody on that Christmas list that you have. Okay, we're going to put this out and then just pull this out. Okay, so let me get my brush. Should have it handy. And as you're going to see, it does not cut the outline of those trees. Okay, and I didn't cut this to size. You could. I'm going to take my, I don't have my take your pick tool, but I have this pokey tool here. I'm going to poke out the rest of these. Usually these don't stick in here a whole lot, but I have been using this quite a bit. You could, if you find that it's not cutting all the way through on a lot of your dies, you could take a shim, like a piece of copy paper, don't do too thick, or even just a piece of wax paper. Okay, so I've got this die cut out, and I want to trim it now. And the reason why I didn't do it first is I want to do it pretty close to the size that I need. And so I am going to, and what I'm going to look at is, when I figured out my Azure Afternoon, I measured from the top here and to the bottom. So I know that this is going to be plenty big. So let's kind of trim this up just a little bit here, because we've got this top line there. It's not going to be much, because I did line that up pretty close there. And I know my Azure Afternoon is 2 3/4, so anything larger than that is going to be fine. But I see here at 3 inches, the 1/4 inch is too small. So then I go to 3 1/4, and that's still a little bit tight. So I'm going to go to 3 5/8. Right? 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3 3/8. And that should be deep enough. Okay, and we're going to cut that off. So that is our frame. Now, this is where I thought I'm going to layer this on top of here. And this is going to be in the background, and this isn't quite big enough. I need to cut this a little bit bigger because I did go a little bit bigger. Let me make sure. Thought I measured it. No, this is the wrong piece. I took the wrong piece. Ugh. So I'm just going to grab another piece. Got another piece right here. That's too narrow. So let's measure this one. And then I'm going to go just 1/8. So it's just under 5 inches by 3 3/8 inches. So I am going to do 1/8 smaller than 5 inches for the length. And then the 3 3/8, I'm going to go a little bit smaller. And let's check that out. Okay, perfect. Okay, but as you see, you know, when I was putting this card together, I thought, okay, what colors do I want? Because I want it to be a bright winter sky, but balmy blue was too light. A winter sky has got a little bit more deepness to it, but I don't like just the solid there against that designer series paper. Okay, so in fact, you know what? I want that showing a little bit more. So I'm going to trim off an 1/8 of an inch there and an 1/8 of an inch here, which means I'm going to have to trim this a 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so that's better. So see, this is going to cover that hole up. But I don't quite like the way that deep blue is just on there. I want a little bit more depth to that. So I thought, okay, what can I do to that? Well, I'm going to take my Misty Moonlight, which was my first color choice for the blue sky and the background, but it was too dark. I don't want it to be a gloomy card. So I'm just going to take my blending brush and put ink, coloring in both directions, and then I'm going to add some ink to my paper. I want to leave a light spot in the middle. So I'm going to go around the edges and kind of go in a little bit. I want some darker spots and some lighter spots because you know we don't have a perfect sky all the time. So just bring in a little bit of that depth. I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. And you might want to try this out a couple of times. Now, when I hold it like this, it looks like it's really dark around the edges, but I still want it darker. So place your paper, your cardstock, behind the image that you are going to be placing over the top, the die, and check it out. See if it's dark enough for you. It may, you know, that may have been dark enough for all of you, but I want it a little bit darker so it gives that illusion of light space in the middle there. And see how that changed that? And look how dark that is, but it doesn't look that dark when I put this on. Now, this is great just the way it is. However, I thought, you know what? I want to ground everything. Now, you could stamp the next image in Misty Moonlight, but let's say you don't have Misty Moonlight, but you have any other color, you guys. I wouldn't choose a black. A gray may be okay. Any green. I just went with garden green, and because that's the color of my cardstock. And wait till you see what happens here. Okay, so we're going to put this across the bottom. And I don't want the grassy, and it doesn't have to go completely across. So you can omit some of that image and then just press. And look, it shows up a little green, but it's still dark. So that garden green does show up there. So we've got that. So now we're going to start putting our card together. So we are going to take our center here, and instead of putting it onto here, which is what I usually tell you to do, I'm actually going to get my silicone mat out, and I'm going to get my tape, stamp and seal, and just go along the edge. Okay, so I'm mostly off the edge. Okay, and that's why I say use that silicone mat, because I can't go in really, really far because of that die. Here we go. Go across the top like that and across the bottom. Okay, a little bit over here too. Okay, so we have that. And look, it just peels right up. So I don't have glue all over my work surface. And this is a great stocking stuffer or a grab bag gift, you guys. You need to order quick because guaranteed shipping is coming to an end for the holidays. So you need to watch that. And don't forget, we do have our last chance sale going on right now, which is products in our current mini catalog that are going to be going away, plus clearance priced items. And some of the items you see in there are discounted, some of them aren't. Okay, so now, see how this isn't straight? That didn't matter to me, but I do want to trim this off. I just wanted to make sure I got all those gaps in the middle and towards the edge. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put some tape on here. But you know what? I think I'm going to use liquid glue just because I want to be able to move this. Okay, and with the tape, you can't always move it. So I'm going to center it, put my right side down first to make it even. And you're going to notice that these lines on this designer series paper don't go straight across. So don't line it up with those lines because they kind of go wavy. Okay, so we've got that, and that's pretty just the way it is. Now we're going to go ahead and add, I could have used my tape again, but my glue's right here. Okay, and we're going to place this on. And even though those stripes are white in that designer series paper, this basic beige goes well with it. And how I picked my, oops, I need to put a little bit of glue right here. There we go. Okay, it goes perfectly with any color. Like I told you, it is one of those basic colors. Oh, I don't know where my bone folder is either here. I'm going to fold that, increase it. I should have done that first. Okay, now we're going to place our bird on there. And I want to put that right over here. He's kind of I'm going to do him over here, I think. Put him down in that corner. And I'm going to use a dimensional. Actually, I'm going to use 3 small ones because I want to make sure his tail gets down in that area and up here and the foliage there. So, how many of you are done Christmas shopping? Tell me, are you done? Oh my gosh, I am. And we're hosting Christmas this year. And everybody's going to have to come into my stamp studio, which is in my basement because we don't have room upstairs for everybody. Okay, so, oops. You can decide which side. I'm just loving that background on here. So you can decide which side you want this on. And I want him going down into the designer series paper a little bit. Okay, then we have this piece here. We could add it here, which is where I think I'm going to put it. You could put it in the top corner if you wanted. There we go. I'm noticing that this edge needs a little bit more tape, so I'm just going to use my glue. It's hard sometimes to get that tape in those small spots, whereas that glue just goes perfectly. And I know some of you have told me you don't like working with the glue, but don't forget, if your hands get real sticky from that glue or your work surface, just use antibacterial squirty stuff and your hand sanitizer. Okay, I'm going to put this one going down instead. Okay, now I'm not putting a verse on the front of here. You could, but I think that a verse would kind of ruin the front. So I'm going to open this up, and on the inside, I am going to stamp another image, this image here, which is from the stamp set. And I want to stamp that in the garden green because don't forget, you want to stamp on the inside of your cards as well as your envelopes. I can't talk and stamp at the same time sometimes. There we go. Just bringing that theme to the inside. And then I'm actually going to use the Misty Moonlight for my verse. And I'm going to put everything on the inside. And what I'm putting on here today is sometimes you need to know that someone really cares and that someone is me. I'll put this right here. Now it's going to look like it's crooked, but I discovered that when I put my labels on, I put them on crooked. So I tested them on a graph paper, actually on some notebook paper. And there we go. So what do you think of that card today? Isn't it gorgeous? Just love it. Now you could take, if you wanted, let me grab my Wink of Stella here. And you guys aren't going to see this a lot, but I'm actually going to squeeze it out and do a little puddle right down here onto my glass mat. You could do it on anything. You can do it on an acrylic block. And I'm just going to spatter that. Okay, onto here. So I'm going to have little flecks glistening, which will kind of be like snow. Now, you guys will probably see them as dark little dots on there. Can you see those? And when it dries, it'll be shimmery. If you wanted, you could take this, since I've got some here, I'm going to add some to the berries just to make them glisten a little bit. And this berry over there. And there we go. Then I have to do is wipe that up with a wipe. But that is today's card. Now, if you wanted, you could do the same technique with your blending brush on your trees if you wanted to give some depth to that. But I didn't think it was necessary. But that's just another change that you can do to change your cardstock up. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. And until next time, happy stamping, everybody.